Long ghosts whisper through the trees, cold winds carrying their pleas. Lives ended, stories untold, a heart of stone.
Okay, so as you know, we're up to episode 7 in our 10-part series on Martin Bryant and the Port Arthur Massacre. Now, whilst I've been researching episode 7, which is about the siege at Seascape, it's occurred to me that there is an abundance, a mammoth, a huge amount of information in this case that is overwhelming, and it's taken me a few days to get through it. So I wasn't actually completely prepared or happy with my preparation for the presentation of episode 7. So I thought it's probably a good time now to do a bit of a recap anyway, given that there is so much information out there and we're at episode 7. So let's do a recap, shall we? That's where we're at right now. Enjoy.
They said it was him, they swore it was clear, blonde hair like smoke, the devil near. They said it was him, they swore it was clear, blonde hair like smoke, the devil near, a heart of stone, a grip gone cold. Long ghosts whisper through the trees, cold winds carrying their pleas. Lives ended, stories untold. They said it was him, they swore it was clear, blonde hair like smoke, the devil near. They said it was him, they swore it was clear, blonde hair like smoke, the devil near.
Hello. Good morning. How are we all? Oh. Can you see me? Yeah. The families and victims of this case commented on any of this stuff. No, not to me. No, they have spoken to, sorry, I'll start from the start. Welcome to the Defence Press. This is our recap on the Martin Bryant Port Arthur Massacre story. Basically, we're doing a 10-part series, and we're up to episode 7. But as I said in the intro, the amount of information out there is huge. And obviously a lot of it is of the media narrative that they want you to know. So sifting through the wheat from the chaff has been interesting. But I've managed to do it. It's just the actual preparation of the actual the massacre itself and the seascape. You need to have everything, all the information to be able to present the full picture, and I'm not prepared to do it, to present something that's half-assed. So that's where we are. And the reason it's only half-assed at the moment is because I've been flat out. I have not been able to dedicate enough time to poor Martin, and he deserves the time. He deserves enough time for me to be able to not just do a rush job, to give him what he deserves. So I've just been caught up with all of the Fletcher County, Appalachia stuff going on in the background. Now, in saying that, there is a link at the top of the, I'll get back to you, in 1 second. There's a link at the top of the screen to an amazing content creator YouTube channel out there called Devil's Advocate. Now, Tanya, I sent her off on a Jennifer Hill hunt research mission, and she stumbled across Lee from Devil's Advocate and sent me his details. So I watched him all morning, scouted him out, and then actually reached out to him because it's refreshing to see other content creators that actually focus and base their content on factual information and not bullshit. All right. And have the attitude that they are there to provide honest information, and the public can make their own decisions and opinions and form them themselves, as long as that then have all of the information to do so and can make an informed opinion. So I've been in discussions with him all day trying to organise something. So that is why I had to delay, and that is why we're going to wing it by our ass tonight. But that's okay. I know this story inside out now, pretty much. So where did we... Oh, now let me get back to you. So Paul Motor, who is the owner of the Wasp Files channel, he has dedicated over 9 years to researching this particular case, and he has spoken to first responders, he has spoken to family members, he's spoken to victims' families, survivors, everybody. He's spoken to hospital staff, law enforcement, and he is a wealth of knowledge. So check him out at the Wasp Files on YouTube. He has got a lot of information there. He drops a video every Tuesday night in my time, so that would be probably Tuesday morning your time. So we're 14 hours ahead, yes. So, yeah, he's got some really, really good stuff in there, and it's all got receipts, it's all factual. The only issue that we have is that it was all wrapped up quickly in a nice tight little bun and shoved away into a sealed file by the Supreme Court. So all of the investigative information is unavailable. You cannot access it at all. It's the highest possible sealage, I think, for the Governor General. And it was originally supposed to be, when the case was first done back 30 years ago, the seal was supposed to be done for 30 years, which was supposed to unseal this April. But 9 years ago, when Paul Motor started asking for documents and questions and poking around, they added another 75 years to it. So that's long after you and me and our children will no longer be interested. So Martin Bryant has spent the last 30 years behind bars. He's been convicted of 35 unalivings at Port Arthur and sentenced to 35 consecutive life sentences, of which he served 30 years from the first one. So there is no coming out for Martin. Now, I don't have any problem at all with doing the crime, doing the time. The only problem I have is that accusation that crime has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and that all of your rights have been met in the process. And unfortunately, that is definitely not what happened in this case. So we start from the start. So Martin was born in Tasmania, basically, lived his life there with his mother, Carleen, his father, Morris, and his sister, Lindy, who was younger. He was a rambunctious child, to say the least. I think there was maybe some possible undiagnosed ADHD there, but that his parents did take him to at least 4 psychiatrists for evaluations. They included in Joblin, William Lucas, Ian Sale, and eventually back when he was given, when he was arrested, they listed Professor Mullen. Now, the initial diagnoses that they were throwing around was a severe personality disorder, or Asperger's, basically. But the main one that they all agreed on, and the issue at hand, is that he had an IQ of 66, which basically meant that he had the mental capacity of a 10, 11-year-old child. So that in itself is not only, it's deemed in Australia an intellectual disability. He was on the disability pension, and he was deemed by a guardianship board that he was unfit to manage his own finances. So that all being said, an IQ of 66, an 11-year-old child is not legally capable of making a plea, be it guilty or innocent. There should have been, according to the Disability Act in Australia, he should have been appointed a guardian, and he should have had his defence attorney representing him and being present at every single interview, interrogation, you name it. That didn't happen. In fact, the defence attorney wasn't even present for his police interview, and we've got the video evidence to prove it. So, but we'll get to that. So he was brought up very difficult to no competency hearing, nothing. Nope. No. So yeah, his mother had a difficult time controlling him as a child, and there were a few things that, we all do wrong, but there was the media, as they do, sensationalize a lot of things. There was one time where he was on the front porch, and because he would run off, like to the train station and stuff, she would find him on the next door neighbours at the top of their chook shed. And this is at a young age. So she basically had him set up on the front porch with all of his toys and stuff. But he was tethered there, and she was watching him, but he was tethered, and it caused a bit of a community, uproar. But you do what you do as a parent. You don't know any different. She didn't know. She didn't have any supports. She didn't have anyone to lean on. No one knew how to help her, and I think she was very lonely and very confused and really stressed, which is understandable. So, and I'm not making excuses for her, but that's just, as a parent, you deal with what you've got. So, yes, that's right. She did have him. It was a rope of some sort, I think, but it was fairly long, but long enough he could get around, but not down the stairs. So then, throughout his adolescence, he was very much bullied at school. There was a few nasty nicknames and stuff they gave him. He didn't know how to behave appropriately socially. So he would do things like, if there was a group of children talking, he would run up and jump on their back just to join in, type of thing. Just really socially inept, didn't have the skills, didn't have the maturity, didn't understand, and he didn't know the consequences of that behaviour either. It was very difficult for him to comprehend. So that obviously caused him a great deal of distress, and throughout his teenage years and even into his 20s, he had this, like, a complex. He hated anybody calling him an idiot, didn't like to be called stupid. He just had a real complex about it, which is absolutely fair enough. I think she wasn't able to control him at all. She did need help, and she wasn't getting it at all. And that, yes, probably, maybe not so much then, maybe a support person, maybe someone who was trained in mental health and stuff, who could, come out and take her off his hands for a few hours a day, or just something. But this is back in the, the early 70s, and there wasn't a great deal of understanding, especially with regards to ADHD. That wasn't emerging then. And there wasn't a lot of knowledge around. So it was difficult for her. So, and I can understand that, because I had an ADHD child. Labour was an hour, and she hasn't stopped since. So yes, he had this complex about, being thought of as stupid. And as he got into his later teens, he actually met up with Miss Helen Harvey. Now, Helen Harvey was an older lady. She was in her, I think, 50s when she met him, or he met her. He had actually been going around. All right, start again. He had been told by his psychiatrist that he would never be able to hold down a job, because he would annoy people so much that they would not hang around him, basically, was the report. So he was going around the neighbourhood looking for odd jobs. So he was looking for gardening jobs and mowing jobs. And he happened to knock on Helen Harvey's door, and she hired him, and they actually became quite good friends. Now, Helen Harvey was the sole heir to the Tattersalls industry. I believe he did his crime, but I couldn't understand believing he didn't have fair. I couldn't. What? He could have at least tried to go for. Absolutely. No, he wasn't legally insane, but he was not of an intellectual age to be able to. No, that's fine. I'm just trying to make sense of the first bit. So, you couldn't understand or believe that he didn't have a fair representation, or I'm not sure. No, I don't think he did either, but that's, yeah. I don't think he's got the mental capacity to be able to even plan it, let alone, yeah, anyway. So, yes, they didn't try anything. And I was talking to the researcher that did a lot of research for Paul Motor, and her argument was that, well, we don't know. We don't know if they did any preparations for a trial. And I said, well, yes, we do. There is no subpoenas for experts. There is no, who has he enlisted as his witnesses? Who's he enlisted as his? There was nothing, absolutely nothing. So his rights, as far as legally goes, like on the legal aspect. So you have the right to a fair trial. You have a right to have an adequate defence. Adequate service of counsel, and you have all the rights that go along with the Australian laws. But he had additional rights on top of that, given his intellectual disability. So he actually comes under the Australian Disability Act as far as their human rights and legal rights go. So with the Australian Disability Act, they are tasked with having a full-time, what did I call her before? Guardian, or I think it was called, who is not only there to be present during any interviews or interrogations or whatever, anything legal, basically. So even his any pre-hearings, the lot. But they also have to allow time. In the Act, it says they need to allow time for the guardian to explain in detail with the client all of the aspects, and enough time until he understands completely exactly what's being said and exactly what's being accused, what's being sentenced, the lot. And none of that happened. In fact, when he turned up to his sentencing hearing, he had absolutely no idea. When the judge read out the charges, he had no idea that that's what they were actually charging him with, the 35 murders. So it is extremely sad, because at the end of the day, this man was convicted and has spent 30 years in jail, thinking that, Tasmania is against him, basically. And there is no, motive. There is no motive. He had inherited over, $500,000 from Helen Harvey. He had umpteen properties. He was going overseas all of the time, and he had a girlfriend. What more could you want out of life? It's unbelievable. He had lots of records of hearing voices before the shooting. Where did you see that? Hello, Wild Aussie Woman. How are you? Damn, I missed the first 50. That's okay. We'll have a pause and wait for you to catch up. Sometimes it's just how these cases go. You think, oh, that was terrible. Ethan Crumbley. I don't believe that his parents should have copped that at all. But also pled guilty, and he was never facing the possibility. No. So he never had a trial. And he also never had an intellectual disability, correct. But there was also a lot of evidence supporting the act as well. Yeah? It wasn't just hearsay. Does that make sense? In this case, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, physically, evidence-wise, to tie him to this case at all. Nothing. He is amazing, yes. Yes. He's a wealth of knowledge. Very hard man to get hold of, but a wealth of knowledge. So I've actually found the best way to get hold of him is to jump into his live stream chat or leave a message on a video. Anyway, so yeah, I'm sure didn't they have the gun? He had the gun with him. They had the video CCTV footage in the school. They had his diary. They had all sorts of stuff with Ethan. But yeah, no, nothing with Martin. So, where was I? Yes, so he met up with Helen Harvey, and they actually lived together, not as a romantic couple, but as friends. And she and he got like she was a bit of a recluse, a bit of an eccentric, had a shit ton of money, and they came so close that she willed all of her fortunes to him. She didn't have any children, she wasn't married, and she was obviously the last remaining heir. And we did do a bit of I got Tan to do a deep dive on her fortune, because the mainstream media said that it was worth, I think, 500,000, but they didn't take into account any of her Tattersalls shares. And the Tattersalls shares back then, before they became Tats, were actually income shares, which were generating $400,000 a year. So the actual value of her estate could have been up to the amounts of like 28 million, apparently. So, hey, Dimmy, how are you? Yes, you are. I saw that. I have reached out to Lisa and offered my services, but no, I haven't had no response. So, yeah, the reason I say that is because through Paul's investigations, none of that money, or very little of it, if it did, go to the actual victims of the crime, which the government said that all of that money went to the victims of crime. And if you listen to, there is a video of one of the, I think it's Paul's, I'm going to stuff up the name, it was Paul Stevens or something, Stephen, he lost his wife. It was a married couple, and his wife worked in the Broadwater Cafe, and he worked up at the what's it called? Oh, my brain's gone blank. What's the name of it? Up at where the Mikak children were killed, and Mrs. Mikak, up at the fucking where the cars were. Oh my God, what's that word? Toll booth. Okay. Fuck. Spit it out, Jody, today. Yes, and he worked at the toll booth, and he is the one that said that he saw the gold BMW and Martin's car parked together up at the toll booth. The BMW was at the front, and the Martin's car was at the back, and there was 4 people in that car, and the shooter was the driver. And the shooter got out, and so did the other occupants of the car, one by one eventually, and they were all killed. And he said that was not Martin Bryant. Not only that, but all the first responder who was the first one, she was actually an employee of Port Arthur, and she ran a lot of the tours. And that particular time, she'd come in between tours for her lunch, and she walked past the shooter. And a lot of the people at the cafe actually knew Martin Bryant, because him and Helen Harvey used to go down there for afternoon teas and stuff. So they knew him. They knew who he was. And so she was there once the shooting started, and she too said it wasn't Martin. In fact, there was a victim who was actually shot in the neck, and I actually want to do a deep dive on him. And he was laying on the floor, bleeding out, pretending to be dead so that the shooter wouldn't shoot him again, stepped over him, and even he said it wasn't Martin Bryant. In fact, the 200 people, the 200 witnesses in Broadwater Cafe that day, 2 of them identified Martin Bryant as the shooter. That's it. 2. So, just giving you the information. Switch to chat from top message to, haven't I got that? I have. I've got all messages. Why, am I missing something? Oh, hello. Yes. Yes, indeed. It is actually starting to gain a little bit more traction. Not a lot, but a little bit. A few other content creators are picking it up. But they'll all be telling the same story, because what you look out for out there and what you find is unbelievable. My giggle. One of the stupid new features of YouTube, they filter out some messages based on undisclosed criteria. You mean in the chat? You mean from live chat to the top chat? Because I have to do that every time I set up a stream. I have done for a long time. Yeah, two out of 200. That's it. And those two may not have even known who Martin was. And yes, there was someone with blonde long hair in a dark coat. There is no actual footage of his face. Nothing. So, I mean, Martin, once he inherited all that money, and you can imagine someone with the intelligence of an 11-year-old, they're not going to be aware of what the consequences are or think ahead. So he was flaunting that shit like you wouldn't believe. He was throwing the money around, gallivanting, and he was probably being a bit of a show-off, no doubt. So that could quite easily make him a target for someone, especially given his intellectual capacity. They could have seen, perfect patsy, so to speak. So, yeah. So basically what happened, he was arrested for the unaliving of 35 people. They didn't search for anybody else. They didn't interrogate anybody else. They didn't question anybody else. They actually charged him whilst he was in hospital because he'd sustained third-degree burns to his back. That's another thing that's a bit of a question. If you're in an overnight siege with police and you want to burn the building down, do you douse yourself on the back with propellant? Not only that, do you destroy the weapons? Both of the chambers of the two weapons that were found, one was found on a roof on one of the cottages, and the other one was found out the back. And both of them had like a combustible device inserted into their the chamber and exploded, so that there was no discernible possibility of matching ballistics or anything. Not only that, whilst he was in the siege, he was on the phone to the hostage negotiator, and they've got the recordings of it. I've got it somewhere, but in the background you can hear gunfire, you can hear gunshots. Yeah, well, that's true. But what if someone had said to him, okay, I've got a job for you, Martin. I want you to stay here and look after these people, okay? And we're going to play a little game. You're going to pretend that you're holding them hostage, okay? And you have to talk to this man, and you have to call yourself, what do you call himself? Simon or something. He's an 11-year-old. Yeah, mate, I'll come and join you. I believe he was at that cottage all fucking day. All day. But that's just me. All right. Let's have a listen to this this really, really good content creator that I found. And her little recap. Yeah, shall we? I'm sure she's very wise. Let's watch me watching me. Today. Martin Bryant. Back to the Port Arthur Massacre. which occurred in April 1996. And Martin Bryant was, or has been, convicted of the 35 unalivings at the massacre. It's still today Australia's biggest mass murder. And
can you hear that okay?
In researching this particular case, it's extremely evident that there were corners cut and
hey Christine,
information relayed had been somewhat adapted. Let's put it that way. So tonight I started to watch a presentation that another content creator had done, and that no shaming here or anything like that. It's purely just an example to show how the media, the mainstream media information continues to be perpetually portrayed in their narrative. Because if you look at the surface of it and you just do a quick bit of research on it, you don't actually see the discrepancies and the differences and the narrative, basically. So what I've done is I'm going to use this video to watch, and we're going to watch it together. And wherever it comes up in the content where there is discrepancies or where there is something that I can show you that is untrue, we'll be stopping it there, and we'll be showing you exactly why, how, when, where, and hopefully that way you can see for yourself. I have attached the link to the particular video in the description box with the timestamps of
you're very
all
helpful,
of the
madam. Thank you.
discrepancies, so to speak, if you want to follow along. But we'll be going with them one by one. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Martin Bryant, he was 28 at the time, and this occurred back in April of 1996, as I said. And there is two videos. As I said, this is a bit of an insert into the 10-part series that we're actually presenting. So there are 2 episodes of that out at the moment, and they just give you a bit of a background on Martin's upbringing and his life experiences pretty much up until age, I think we went to 21, just looking so far. And then we're going to, the next episode, we're going to delve into his personal relationships. He had a girlfriend called Petra Wilmot, and he also struck up a very good friendship with Helen Harvey. Helen Harvey was the heir to the Tattersalls fortune, and basically when she died, she left all of her fortune to Martin, which was extensive, and that's another thing that the media has not particularly been keen to share. They've documented her net worth his inheritance at about $625,000. So it's a lot of money in today's day and age, but back in 1996 it was obviously a lot more, so to speak. But they didn't include
actually
the
I'll just
actual
1 second. I wanted to show you quickly.
Psyops are really used even against in the military.
I shared this today, and this is the content creator that I was talking about. I just took a clip from that, and he's talking about how the media dehumanizes people.
I would argue against to train your soldiers to kill other people. You have to dehumanize the enemy, and likewise, before we get too far, it's the same thing in true crime. You dehumanize the monster, the bad guy. So you show creepy pictures of them as some. You look at this monster. He's not even human. That way, whatever you say about the guy, they're like, yeah, that guy's not even fucking human. He's just a sicko. He's a twisted. Like it. Once you know how to get people to dehumanize someone and look at them as a monster and not a real person, then you can do anything. You can get away with murder because people no longer view them as a human being.
Right. And
PSYOPs are really.
And Exhibit A, that right there is the photoshopped photo of Martin Bryant that the media put out and portrayed him as. I don't get onto Facebook very often. I generally will share things and post there, but I don't sit and read. I have emailed Anna. I have reached out to her on Messenger, and I've WhatsApped her as well, and I've had no return. So I don't know. And the money, yes, that the government, as I said, called it about the $580,000 mark, but it could have been upwards to 28 million, and the victims of crime never received it. The guy that I was talking about, the victim, the man who lost his wife and he worked at the toll booth, I think he said he got 70,000. 70,000. That's it. So don't tell me that picture there is not designed to manipulate your opinion, so to speak. Yeah, it was proven that it was photoshopped. Yes, indeed. And that's just one. That's just one thing in this case. Only one. There is a billion of them, and that's why I actually chose this bit, because it focuses on the media debunking the investigation, or lack thereof. Well, no, there was a full investigation. It was complete, but never went to trial. Shares, the income shares, but never got questioned. The Tattersalls, correct. Fortune out of 200. So there is a suggestion that her net worth could have been somewhere up to the not like 28 million. So we're going and to now speaking of John Howard, the laws of the gun reform straight after Port Arthur, and there was no inquest either. Nothing, no coronial inquest. It is mandated in Australia. Mandated. Never happened. And then we have the Bondi massacre, and the same shit happens. No fucking no inquest, no coronial inquest, and gun reform. That's it. Different fucking prime minister, but same outcome. Following the money on that one, and when Martin was arrested and charged, he basically has an IQ of 66. So his mental capacity is that of a 10-year-old, basically. And he was deemed unfit to manage his own finances. So the state trustees had a guardianship hearing, and they took over the management of his finances. And so, from that point on, so the government have deemed that he's eligible for a disability pension. He's unable to manage his own finances. That's how intellectually disabled he is. But he's able to plead guilty without any consultation with anyone. None. Coerced by and admitted by his own defense attorney, and the defense attorney convinced his mother to say to him that they would not be seeing him again, him and his sister, her and his sister, if he didn't plead guilty. And the mother has has spoken to that. She's actually written a book about it. So you can't tell me that his rights were upheld. Your defense attorney making you cause, when you say that to someone who doesn't know the case, you say, oh, his defense attorney made him put a plea in of guilty after 5 months, and they say, well, if the evidence was there and it's in the best interest of, if the evidence was there and it was in the best interest of your client, yes, no worries, completely, but not in this case. Mm-mm-mm-mm. You have to admit the gun reforms were very effective. 2 mass shootings in 18 years versus 1 mass shooting per day in the year. Yeah, I suppose. But guns have never been a big thing. Maybe that's because of the reforms, but they are not a usual thing over here. They're not like every second person in Texas has a firearm on them all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like that doesn't happen in Australia at all. There is no concealed carry. It's only pretty much law enforcement and game hunters, and it's a small minority over here that have actual guns, especially semi-automatics. Actually, I've got a good video to show you about that. I'm in the middle of making a short out of it, but I'll show it to you anyway. You can have a sneak peek. The money disappears. So it certainly wasn't given to the victims of crime. The victims of crime.
What was an echo?
They did not receive any compensation from that amount of money.
Yes, that's right.
They received very little, actually.
Still.
And we'll discuss that when we watch some interviews with some of the victims and the survivors.
Actually, there is another thing that I found out too. Whilst he was in that 5.5 months, that right up to the lead up before he actually changed his plea, he spent 37 days in solitary confinement. 37. Complete solitude. Bad pause, sorry.
Of survivors, and might I add, who categorically denied that Martin was the shooter, basically. So a victim laying on the floor who has been shot, pretending to play dead whilst the shooter steps over them, comes forward and says,
What has he got to gain?
What have they got to gain out of that?
There is an echo.
Just putting that
This
out
chick
there.
knows what she's
Right.
talking about.
So without further ado, let me try and make sure I'm saving this and sharing it properly to both presentation aspects. It's really bizarre how they've set up this new
when
format,
they were
'cause you can see
doing
yourself
the
twice. But
so
we'll give
this
it a
is
go
when
nonetheless.
YouTube introduced the simultaneous portrait and landscape style, and I was doing both of them, and you had to actually run 2 streams at the same time. It was ridiculous. So yeah, I did away with the portrait one, and I'll select it for other shit, but I couldn't do the 2 at the time.
Okay, add to stage. Okay, so hopefully, if you're watching on
Has she
your
done
mobile
she's done a
device,
presentation? Look at that.
whilst I'm live, could you let me know in chat whether or not you get a good visual, basically? Because
Yes, I did.
I'll have to play with the format otherwise. Now, let me see what's the best way to watch that.
They are very, very cruel. And even that inmate said that, he didn't think Martin could do it. In fact, he was very, very timid, very quiet, very polite. Never, ever saw him lose his temper. And they were doing things like urinating and defecating in his food, and he couldn't eat anything from there. In fact, he felt so bad and felt so betrayed that for 3 years he didn't see anybody. He refused to see his mum because he thought that she had betrayed him. And now her and Lindy have moved to Western Australia. He has no visitors at all. None.
Maybe I'll do a picture-in-picture. What's about that?
Come on, bitch, get your shit together.
What if? What if?
Oh, they are horrible, yes.
See if I can adapt this one to
I might go and find it whilst this bitch gets her shit together.
that.
Come on.
Maybe.
Hang on, maybe let's L her. L.
Oh,
L.
Change the
L.
Go.
Oh, come on. Seriously? L. Oh. Lord.
28th, 1996, in the city of Hobart, on the island of Tasmania,
Let me know if you can all hear
at
that.
the end of the world.
Oh, I
Looking
don't
out
like
from Hobart's majestic port,
this
at the southern
creator.
end of the island, there is nothing but frigid waters and the icy wasteland of Antarctica beyond. And although Tasmania's dimensions are distorted on a globe to look larger than it really is, you can fly over the entire island in about 30 minutes.
If that.
In 1996, Tasmania had a population of just 460,000 people. Its capital city, Hobart, only 126,000. A small settlement, forged from the harsh prison
That was the
colonies of
closest
British
city
Empire.
to Port Arthur.
The
Hobart.
place very much feels like a lonely last bastion of humanity.
It's the
at the end of
creator.
all things. At 6 a.m., 28-year-old Martin Bryant woke to the sound of his alarm clock. Stirring next to him was his girlfriend, 20-year-old Petra Wilmot. The night before, they had eaten dinner at the home of Bryant's mother, just down the street from them in the Hobart suburb of Newtown, before drinking and dancing until midnight at a now defunct sticky-floored hole called the Cadillac Club. Martin and Petra had not been dating long, but enjoyed each other's company. Nothing serious. Just frequenting trendy bars, clubs, and making short jaunts into the countryside where Petra had grown up. Mostly, however, they just spent time casually hanging out, blissfully doing nothing in particular. 2 weeks earlier, in mid-April, in the middle of one of their rambling hangouts, Petra had accompanied her new boyfriend on a quick errand to the Meyer department store in central Hobart. Martin Bryant
Now,
wanted
I
to
don't
buy a
believe this
sports
story
bag,
1 second,
and was
but
very particular about the size, even bringing a tape measure with him. Bryant said it was for his touch.
one of her in Petra's statement, she actually said that one of their first dates, Martin had taken her out, and he'd sat there and he'd gotten the Age newspaper and put it out in front of him, and she said he was pretending to read it because he was illiterate. So she said, I knew he was pretending to read it, but he was just trying to look like he was a little bit more intelligent than he was. But that was how much it meant to him that people didn't think that he was stupid. So she knew that he couldn't read or write.
Equipment. But this was a lie. The large blue tennis bag he eventually selected was going to contain guns. Lots of guns. Some serious hardware.
So that there is
and a veritable boatload.
pretty much the only connection. The only connection they have between Martin and the massacre because of this bag. And that's because the girlfriend identified it.
Ammunition. Petra liked her new boyfriend and his quiet, gentle ways. He was tall. He had a square jaw and a somewhat statuesque bone structure. He had long blonde hair, raggedly worn in the grunge style popular in the mid-1990s. A few days earlier, Petra and her boyfriend had spent Anzac Day together in the countryside, taking gleeful and carefree happy snaps of each other on camera. They very much seemed like a young couple enjoying a spell of puppy love. But the morning of April 28th was different. As they ate breakfast, Martin Bryant told Petra he needed to be alone that morning. He had a few things to take care of. But, he said, maybe they could hang out later that day. These words were hollow. He had no intention of doing so. Petra departed Bryant's house shortly after 8 o'clock. At precisely 9:47 a.m., Martin Bryant set his security alarm and stepped out into the chilly autumn air, because, of course, late April in the southern hemisphere signaled a slow descent into a rather gloomy Tasmanian winter, very different from the rest of Australia. Inner Hobart is built to resemble an old-fashioned European city with its cobbled streets and splendid 19th century architecture, combined with a much cooler climate than mainland Australia, and the roving populations of deer introduced by early settlers. You'd be forgiven if you thought back to reality.
Get to the
Inside
stuff.
was an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle,
Hmm?
an SLR semi.
We're going to leave that one just there for a minute because we've pretty much covered that shit. So we're going to nick to Paul Motor's video on the Wasp Files, which is fairly recent. And this is about what's happened to Martin on the inside of Risdon Prison in Tasmania, which is very sad. He actually interviews a prior inmate there.
Did you have any impressions that the prison itself, that there was some brutality there from some of the guards? Because you mentioned some of the things they said that they'd done to, in essence, mistreat Martin.
You too, sweetheart.
A big glass.
Yeah.
And they crank it up, or they'll break it up, then they'll crank it up to a fine dust, put it into his food, they'd piss in his food. And I remember one day one inmate came in and Martin used to sit up the back corner, far corner with his back against the wall. And one inmate walked in and he said, "Give me your Vegemite, Martin, give it." And he goes, "No, I'm going to put that on my toes." And next minute the inmate stabbed him straight to the hand with a fork. You know what I mean? And then the prison team do nothing. Like, they didn't give a shit.
I love that accent. The typical Aussie accent. Yeah, nah, the inmates didn't give a shit, mate. They fucking give a shit. Yeah, fully stick. Fully stick. Oh, my fully stick with arrow. That's the Western Suburbs accent.
Welcome to the Wasp Files.
Hello, Paul.
Some of this material may be distressing and viewer discretion is advised. This episode of the Wasp Files presents the testimony of an ex-inmate at the Risdon Prison Complex. It's raw, very compelling, and it backs up former claims by an ex-Risdon prison guard that Martin Bryant may have been subjected to a deliberate, sustained and protracted campaign of torture, specifically to elicit his confession.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank this person very much for coming forward, because once again, they provide crucial, vital evidence which suggests that the mainstream story of the Port Arthur massacre is not the full story.
Why else would they?
So tell me a bit about yourself and, how you ended up there and the whole bit. And
what happened, I was living in Devonport at the time, just doing my own thing, my girlfriend was pregnant. I got locked up on an FBO case,
Family violence
I did, because back then, you only had to take your truck or whatever, and get locked up on FBO.
Yeah.
And I ended up going in there for 6 months the first time when I went in there. And then I was up in the yards, got bit by a white super spider and screws that with an arseholes, and I got a razor blade out and I cut the bottom of the heel off. I did.
Yeah.
And then they sent me down into the hospital down there, and then next minute they put me up North Wing. I can't remember the number of the cells, but they put me up North Wing, and then I actually looked next door as I was walking up there, and there was Martin Bryant. I was like, wow, he's different to what people say he is, and I was sitting there talking to him.
Paul's heavy breathing in the background.
And he's he's really soft spoken, harmless as, you wouldn't hurt a bloody fly, to tell the truth. And I used to get at his door, and I used to sit there and talk to him, and he was very, very respectful, never had a bad tone to the truth. And then
Could you imagine what is going through his mind? Like him when he's put into prison, he's been convicted of these 35 murders and 35 life sentences, and him in his 11-year-old brain trying to comprehend that and trying to work out how he got where he is and why he's there, and try and reconcile it with himself. Like, he's had 30 years to think about this shit, and he's there for eternity. Like, surely there has to be someone out there that can delve into this and actually get the Supreme Court to, it's not like he could even be retried because it's double jeopardy. So, and they certainly wouldn't release him without, anything
in place. So it would be my opinion the best case scenario for him would be that he would be transferred to a psych facility that was suitable for him, but not a lockdown. He couldn't leave, but like not. I can't explain it, but it's certainly got to be better than this shit. Because you know what would you do if that happened to you? You know, and you're an adult, and you understand what's happening. He had no idea of his rights. He had no idea of how the justice system worked. He didn't fight back. He can't fight back. He didn't know. It was like convicting a child, because that's what you're talking about. He wasn't legally able to even plead guilty at that. So surely there is some loophole. Like, it's not the appeal process. It's more to do with his rights. There has to be someone out there that can help. That's what I'm trying to find anyway.
I just asked him heaps of questions, and he just it was like I was talking to him.
No, he won't talk about it.
Like I was talking to him, like a 13-year-old kid or something, you know, like he wasn't right at all, like, you know. And then I asked him why he done it, stuff like
He's
that.
never even spoken to his mother about it.
I can't tell you, I can't talk to you, about it, you know. It was like he had like loose bugs or something in his cell, or you know, something like that, like, you know, like he's real weird about it.
I've spoken to a couple of other inmates that suggested
you can imagine how much anxiety and betrayal, and he's probably got PTSD, like all those emotions that would come back about, you know, his conviction and his betrayal with his mother every time he spoke about it. So I wouldn't talk about it either.
He's watched quite a lot, and what he says to other inmates is monitored.
Yeah. Like he can't. Like it's like he can't talk about it, because if he talks about it, it's like
makes it real.
There's someone watching him 24/7, or you know, he's going to get bumped off, or you know, something like that. Like he's actually scared. Like he's like really, like when I was in there, it was like he was petrified.
Living with fear. Living with fear for 30
like
years.
Some of the inmates, like, you know, when I was in there, like I thought it was pretty shit, because I had to go with a couple of inmates in there, because you go into the hospital library and it's like a little cell. And every time you go in there, like, it was like he was in there to hide, but they'd go in there and they'd smack him up with books and stuff like that. And I said to him one day, hey, like, fucking leave him alone, like, you know, it's like he's a kid in the man's body, you know. And then I said to him one day, I said, Martin, I literally said it to him, I said, Martin, I said, right next door to me in the West Wing, and I said to him, I said, why did you do it? Like, what's the go? Like, why did you do it like that? And he goes, no comment. And, you know, like, he was real, like, timid, like, he couldn't tell me, like, anything. Yeah, he didn't want to talk about anything. It was like his brainwashed, like, literally brainwashed. And then he had a bloke, I'm pretty sure the bloke's name was Big Tony. He was real big fat fella. He used to be on steroids in there years ago. I don't know if he's still alive at the moment.
I'll be back in a minute.
Used to pay him packets of licorice, all sorts, to protect him.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the actual Mercy Ward or Willie Lopez Centre, you know, they're in essence there to sort of, you know, treat people that have conditions and so on. Did you have any impressions that the prison itself, you know, that there was some brutality there from some of the guards? Because you mentioned some of the things they said that they'd done to, in essence, mistreat Martin, like urinating in his food and so on. What's your...
I was there one day, like, down in the hospital, when he was in there, when I was down the bottom there with him. Like, they put a big glass, like, literally big glass, like the, what's the name, what's the big long one?
Yeah.
And they'd crank it up, like, they'd break it up, then they'd crank it up to a fine dust, put it into his food, they'd piss in his food. I remember sitting in the what's the name, like the kitchen down in the hospital, because you had your own little kitchen there, like you'd get about 40 blokes there, you know what I mean? And I remember one day one inmate came in, and Martin used to sit up the back corner, They just walked in there, back right corner. You can see right up the far corner with his back against the wall. And one inmate walked in and he said, "Give me your Vegemite." No, give it to him. He goes, "No, I'm going to put that on my toes." And next minute, the inmate stabbed him straight to the hand with a fork. You know what I mean? And then the Screws didn't do nothing. Like, they didn't give a shit. They just turned their head, walked off. You know what I mean? Yeah, like it was pretty shit guy. Like I said, Mark, I said, like, I walked up. That's not normal, man. Like, you know, you can't do that to you, mate. Like, you know, it's wrong. Like, you know, I said, even though you're in here for the shit thing that you've done and that, I said to him, did the police set you up or what's going on? Like, you know, and he wouldn't talk. He just wouldn't talk. He's too scared. And then I walked past his cell one day, like walking up the corridor.
Yep.
And I walked past and he was literally hiding underneath his bed. He was hiding underneath his bed because he thought there was a sniper, because they moved him from the east wing up to the north wing, and because on the east wing it had bulletproof glass around the whole thing, like he had a little day yard. They spent like millions of dollars on it, they reckon. And then they moved him down to the north wing, and he goes, I don't like really for the daytime sitting up on my bed. He goes, because there could be a sniper up on the hill ready to shoot me and that. And I was like, what the fuck, mate? Like, no one's going to shoot you. Like, no one didn't think of that, you know? Yeah, it was real weird. But the Screws were, like, terrible to him. Like, it was just next level bullshit it was.
What year was this that you were in there and having these interactions with him?
I think it was, like, early 99 or something like that.
Oh, okay. So it's only about 3 years after he was incarcerated.
Probably not even that. I've got a board here, but I can't see the date on the board because that was the same time I actually met Martin. Because across the road, Martin, there was Joey Salford. He killed his mother, so he's down at the hospital too, and he gets treated the same way. Yeah. Yeah,
well, he's certainly, the press are reporting, of course, that he's obese now and needs 3 mattresses to sleep on and all this kind of stuff.
Because they feed him up on bread. They do. They give him sandwiches, bread. You can eat as much bread as you like in there. They don't change the meals.
Just on that, the weight thing. Apparently, the medication that he's now taking for his mental health is also something that contributes to his weight issues. Plus, there's no exercise either.
And like all the meals in there, they're like months old. Like, you know, they just they cook them freshly daily, and then what they do, they put them into a big freezer and leave them in there for like 9 months, and they start handing them out to the yards and that. So with the bread, it's a lot of yeast and all the bullshit you see, and it just makes you really big. Because when I first went there, he was skinny as a rape. He was like skinny as they shaved his head off bald.
They said that what's happened because they were, urinating in his food and stuff. He was buying a lot from his commissary, buying a lot of just junk that you can get from the mini shop there.
You know, the couple boys and that was stirring him up and that. And then I actually started talking to him, because he was next door to me and that. And then I said to him, Martin, was there anyone else involved in it? Don't mind it. He's still got nothing against me, man. I said, was there anyone else involved? He goes, I can't tell you that. He goes, I cannot tell you. I was like, tell me, mate. I'll bring it right over for you, man. You didn't have to be skinny for, all these years and cop the abuse and that.
No.
And paying people for protection.
He's copped it from all angles.
Down in the hospital.
Let down by everybody. That's the sad part.
I've spoken to a few people, and I get the impression that I'm not sure if you ever witnessed this, that if he was to speak out in a certain way, that he would lose privileges.
Yes, they do it. They actually do it to all inmates. What they do, say when I was in there last time, I walked into Division 4, and Tim, which was the top security dude at the time, I just moved in. I didn't even know this through, and my window was smashed in my cell, had a crack in it. And they tried to charge me $80. Nah, I'm not paying $80 for something I haven't done. I just moved in there. It was already cracked. And what happens, like, what they'll do, they'll take the phone away from you, lose the canteen, no visits, just stuff like that. Like, they'll just push you, like, to empty you at break point till you really actually go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do. But, like, Mark, I don't know how they do it, Mark, because he's always really quiet and timid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like his main one, because when I was there, when I was in there, like, I was in there for, I think it was 9 months with him, and I asked him a few questions because no one really talked to him. He's pretty quiet. People don't stand over his screws and after him, like. And then I said to him, Mark, I said, how do you? I asked him about guns, like, just about, I thought, you treat like I'll ask anyone anything, when I see someone like him, like, And I said, how do you pull these guns apart, do this, do that? And I'm not joking, like, he knew the ins and outs of the firing arm, like, I've never known anything. It was like he's been brainwashed.
So you had the impression that he was very knowledgeable about firearms.
Yeah, yeah, he knew the ins and outs
That's
of the
all part of
firearm,
Asperger's too.
and he couldn't tell you. Like, if I said to him, I said, what's 4 times 12, 144, he wouldn't be able to tell me that. He couldn't tell me that. Like, he had no idea, like, with maths, stuff like that. Like, he had brain of the 13-year-old, but as soon as you asked him about a gun, he'd tell you the ins and outs of it. Like, I couldn't believe I was like gobsmacked, and I just looked at him, I said, Mark, I said, like, how do you know this? Like, and he goes, I can't tell you. He goes, I can't tell you about it. It was like he literally, like, the police or whoever it was, had actually brainwashed him and taught him all this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I think
But
he probably
everything
learned it
else
himself.
like
He's
that,
been reading up
really
about it,
quiet,
something that interested him.
Like, he was too scared to hurt anyone. I'm not saying like really scared, like scared to do child in there. He was. And everyone knew it, and then people take advantage of the screws, didn't give a shit about him, say what he had to do. He paid Big Tony. I'm pretty sure his name was Tony Big Fellow, he was, he was a monstrous bloke. And because he was that big, the security, the screws down there, they gave him like the admission. And to calm this big fella down, and they left him down the hospital to do all his time, and he used to pay Big Tony, like, I think like 4 packs of licorice all sorts every fortnight or every week, whenever it was, on the Wednesday or whatever it was, so no one would pick on him. Yeah, and Baby Jeffrey was down there as well. He was down there as well. They do say, but they used to set him up too, they used to come in and beat him up, give him his cannon and make him go schizo on the head. As soon as he flipped out, they'd lock him himself for, like 9 months, 10 months at a time. That's what they do there. Like, it was literally torture. Yeah.
Did you think that some of the guards yourself, that they were quite brutal, and some probably would have been okay, but what was your impression generally, the screws?
They're brutal lads. Like, it's all corrupted in there. Like, I've actually seen a handgun come through the front gate with screws, like the screws that actually brought a handgun into the prison, stuff like that. Like, they bring the drugs in, they bring everything in, you know what I mean? Like, it's just next level. Like, if you've got money, you can do anything you want. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's what it's like in there. Like, it's absolute rubbish. Yeah.
I heard about a guard by the name of who was supposedly ex-military, and
Would surprise me if there is one, because I said to Mark, I was sitting there talking to Mark one day, because I seen a picture of a gun or something, and it was burnt. It was a burnt gun. And I said to Mark, I'm pretty sure, me and another mate talked about it, and I said to him, I'm pretty sure there was a gun that was used in the Port Arthur Massacre, and I said, it's actually a gun that the screws used to use in the prison. It looks exactly the same as the gun. I said to them, we're in the shower bay, and they used to walk along the top of the land and look down at us, like the women's screws and that.
yeah.
And I was looking at the gun, I was like, that gun is a prison-issued gun. That's not a normal gun that you can buy on the street, you know what I mean?
I mean, the AR-15s, or Colt SB1s, as it was known, they were able to be purchased, or at least the semi-automatic versions were able to be purchased by civilians. They weren't hugely common, but they were around.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably they're similar to the kind of guns that are used by the authorities, with the difference they might have had selective fire ones, i.e. full auto machine guns.
Yeah.
Did he have many visitors that while you were there you saw? Did he see a lot of psychiatrists or his girlfriend or his mum?
No, I remember going in to see him because I was going to visit with my mum and dad, and he was beside me was his mother. Yeah, the psychiatrist never talked to him at all. No one ever talked to him. I think there was only like two people who used to talk to him, like, and that was one was me and another bloke, Dave Stewart. He was there. He used to talk to him, and that was it. Like, and then Dave was better. He wouldn't talk to me anymore because Mark wouldn't talk back.
Yeah.
But I started talking to him like on a daily basis. And I was like, and then when lunch came around, stuff like that, they'd lock us all down for an hour, but they'd let Mark out to go have a shower because he was too scared to actually even go to the showers.
That's terrible.
Because his mates are out. They're out walking around. So it's like when you go down to the prisoner hospital, there's a section, like as I walk down the north wing, come down to the middle of it, there's a little booth box in the middle there where you walk around like a nut house it is. Yeah. And then on the side of that, there's a shower, made 2 showers there. And the spirits used to get him out, walking down, give him a shower, and you wouldn't hear from him for about 45 minutes, and he'd come back. Like, you know what I mean? He's never, like, they'd always force him or do something for him, you know what I mean? He was never free to just talk or do anything, you know what I mean? Or talk to anyone, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the control thing, I mean, I tried to see him in prison. I wrote a letter with a self-addressed envelope for him to approve me as a visitor.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to see it. It was seized by the prison as a risk to prison security.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously I would like to talk to him. I don't know if I'd get much out of him now.
The only person that'll get to speak to him is a legal representative. That's it. No one else.
I reckon you probably would, like, if you were doing a thing on him to, try and help him and find out the truth about stuff, he'd probably talk to it. But it's not him doing it. It's actually them and stuff like the hierarchies up there, that's doing it.
Yeah.
Because I've actually tried to send letters out to my family members while I've been in prison, and they send it back to me. They won't give it to my family at all.
Yeah.
Isn't that, I mean, I would have thought that would be a basic human right that you're able to contact your family.
Yeah, no, they took all they came through. What happened, I was going to lend her out to my family. My son, it was actually to my son. My son was 5 years old at the time. Telling him I loved him. I can't wait to get out and see him, stuff like that. They sent it back to me. So I actually had to carry on. So they put me to level 1. So I was getting off like toothpaste, shampoo, nothing like that. So I carried on. I was in court. There was me, and we actually carried on. We actually smashed up the unit, and the TRG came down and they shot us with bean bags, bombs, bombs with their ball bearings. They come out, tased us, gassed us, bashed us. They basically took us out mercy. Yeah, all over a letter because I couldn't give my son a letter. Yeah, like that's what happened. Yeah, but this is everyday thing like in there. But then what they do, they lock us down for months at a time. Like if you watch, I guarantee on St. Pat's Day next year, right? I guarantee the prison is locked down.
You're lekker.
Because the screws are out on the piers, all hungover and don't want to come to work, so they lock us all down. That's what they do. Like it's just bullshit. Like absolute rubbish. Yeah, it's all crap. Like that poor bugger, like she hadn't done nothing. Everyone knows that she's done nothing wrong, but she still had to do all that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I know the prison was under coronial inquest because of the lockdown periods and the mistreatment of inmates and the lack of resources provided to them. They actually had a coronial inquest into the way the prison was run, and there were calls for it to be shut down and the whole bit. So it sounds like a pretty rotten place.
Division 3 in, I think it was 98, 99. I walked into Division 3 and I was just kicking back doing my own thing. I came mates with a few boys in there, you know, like just chatting, you know. And then one bloke came up to me, he goes, "You can't get a 50 gram of white ox off the loo, take Tim Tams and that." I was like, yeah, it's always, mate. So I gave it to him. This is actually, I actually seen this with my own eyes. Another bloke was there, Daryl Smith. There was, I named 30 blokes that were in that yard that day. This bloke, his name was Johnny Stanton. His name was. He went back to his cell. He got off the phone. The screws cut his phone off. They've just been arsehole. They cut his phone off. So he only had like 2 weeks to go and he was out. And he literally went up to his cell. He hung himself in his cell with the cord off the back of his TV.
Oh, Lord.
All us boys yelled out the officers, like the screws, get up here, like we heard a thud, so we knew what was going on, so we were locked in, see?
Yeah.
So then they came up, and instead of undoing the door of the prison door, they stood there with the keys in their hands, laughing about it, like laughing their heads off, joking about it. And then when they actually finally did undo the door, he was dead, pronounced dead, and then they brought a black body bag up with like a hospital bed where they wheel them, like once they put the ambulance.
Yep.
They took it up to the top level, the top tier, and then when they went to take him down, because it goes down two flights of stairs, like it goes down and then around the corner.
Yeah.
When they let him go, it literally went down the stairs. They didn't carry it down. They pushed it down. His head hit the wall that hard, totally shattered his brain, and then did it again. And then they were just sitting there laughing. The security was sitting there laughing about it. Like I thought, that's fucked up. Like that's not right. Like
what was this prisoner's name?
Johnny Stanton. Yep.
That's horrific.
I've never, and I was playing 18 then, and I'm not joking out, I've never seen nothing like it in my life. Never in my whole entire life have I seen anything like that, and it played on my mind for 20 years, because I'm 44 now, you know what I mean? It played on my mind for 20 years, like it fucked my head right up.
So you're only 18 when you went in?
Yeah, I was 17 when I first went in.
And that was for a family violence order.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Wasp Files. New episodes will be uploaded every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
I think we'll leave that there, my loves. There is a part 2 to that, but you can if you jump onto The Wasp Files, there is an abundance of information out there that you can have a squiz at, heaps and heaps. So let me just. So yeah, you're looking for this symbol here, the Wasp Files. Come on, up we go. There you go. That's his site right there. If you type in at the Wasp Files video podcast. Actually, I will copy that and I'll put it in chat. Come on, fingers work. Fucking hell. I can't select that bit on its own. My hands aren't working properly. Go the back way. Let's go. Nope. Fuck. Stupid fingers work. There we go, got it. Copy. Paste. There you go. It's in chat. Here's the link. And it's now on screen. And don't forget to go up the very top, right up the top of the chat. There is a pinned comment there with this other fantastic YouTube content creator. I binged him all morning. It was really refreshing actually to see to find someone who actually presented factual information. and wasn't there for clickbait, just there to make sure that the public had all the information that they needed to make their own opinions and stuff. So, yeah. And he's covering mainly the Idaho 4, but he's also covering the Nikki Stein's Judge Mullen's case. And, yeah, stay tuned on that one because I've got some things in the works. I'm not just sitting here twiddling my thumbs, trust me. Although I'd like to be sometimes. It's actually the Australia long weekend here, so Sunday, so we've got tomorrow is a public holiday for Australia Day. So, of course, there's protests and all sorts going on. Just celebrate being Australian. Aussie, eh? Alrighty. So I'm going to put head down, bum up, and I want to get this seascape video right because there is a lot of things to put together. And yes, it's got to be right. Call it my OCD, call it wanting to present the correct information, whatever you like, but it'll happen next week. She says, provided no crisis comes up in the meantime. And tomorrow night we've got your Sunday night at 8 p.m. We have a weekly catch up with the ladies from Letcher County, weather permitting. They may not have power, so I will find out sometime tomorrow if it's possible. If not, we'll postpone it until we've got some power. So click that notification bell so that you know what's happening. And when it's happening, like and subscribe. That'd be great. Hang on, I've got a little thing for that. Where is it? Come here. Yeah. No, that's not it. I had something. It's gone now. Fuck, did that go? Oh, there it is. Found it. Ta-da! Like and subscribe. All right. If you can't be good at it. Be nice to your mother. Oh, you're caught up. Yay. Good night, sweetheart. And hasta la vista, bitches. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Hey there, thanks for stopping in. We hope you will join us again. We all look forward to next time. We get to talk about true crime. Clues. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule and the defense rests. Our true crime family is great. All types of topics we debate. Smash that like and ring that bell. Hit subscribe, you might as well.